If you'd like to learn more about no ABV and lower ABV cocktails, then stay tuned because this episode is just for you. Welcome to Cocktail Limelight. I'm your host, Erick Castro, and today I'm pleased to introduce you to a good friend of mine, Adam George Fournier, bartender and consultant. Adam, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me here, Eric.
So, brother, I'm excited to have you on here because we're going to be talking about some really interesting things. We're going to be talking about a topic that I feel is very important, especially in regards to modern hospitality, and that's mindful drinking in regards to lower ABV cocktails and also no ABV cocktails.
Absolutely. It's been such an interesting experience watching this category grow over the past couple of years. Like, I think the last statistic I read is like something like non-alcoholic beverages, that category has grown like 600% since 2019. Something that I've definitely been seeing in my restaurants and bars is this experience of guests being very mindful about what they're drinking and how they're drinking it. And it's not the binary, I think, that we all used to think about 10, 15 years ago, where it's like, oh, you either don't drink at all or you're right down for any kind of classic cocktail. I see a lot of people who are going back and forth. They're looking for an experience.
I do that sometimes. Like, if I see a no ABV cocktail on a menu and it just looks delicious, I'll go ahead and order it, even in between like my other cocktails. Just
Absolutely.
Because I'm more excited for like the sensory experience. Like, I just want to see what that tastes like.
Absolutely, and I think that that's like such the great thing about it that's happening right now, especially in terms of like food. And I think a lot of the creativity we're seeing from bartenders is no longer thinking about like, how do I make this thing non-alcoholic? It's going, how do I take this non-alcoholic beverage and replace that experience of a classic cocktail? Where does this fit in? Is this replacing a glass of wine at the beginning of dinner? Is this replacing a stirred Negroni or an old fashioned? How are we giving that experience and that tradition that goes along with that drink versus going, oh, I'm just subbing out the gin for something else? So I think it's a really interesting category that's quite honestly a natural outgrowth, I think, to the craft cocktail movement, where we've been teaching everyone to be very mindful and thoughtful about what they drink. Quality is better than quantity. And that kind of natural progression of going, great, I want to be responsible. I want to enjoy these flavors. I want to have my meal and be able to have a great drink and still be the designated driver for this evening or whatever. I think that that's all some has become a part of it. And I love the fact that this is growing because it's removing any stigma. I've seen so many tables of people come in for dinner, groups like 6 or 8, 3 or 4 of them drinking non-alcoholic cocktails, no one bats an eye. It's just a natural part of the experience now. And that also means there's a lot of room for creativity, but also a lot of things on our end where we have to go, great, how do we make this experience as mindful and as inclusive as, say, a classic cocktail? You don't want someone taking their Instagram photo and being the one person with a sad glass of soda water while everyone else has this beautiful Instagrammable cocktail. So, like,
why sell someone just a club soda and lime when you could upsell that person, bring that ticket price up?
Absolutely.
You know? By selling them something that's thoughtful, mindful, and incredibly delicious.
Absolutely. It's about bringing that experience not only of your bar, but of that drink for that individual. And we're so fortunate that this category has exploded so much. So we have things like Seedlip and these other non-alcoholic spirits to really be able to play around in ways that we didn't have 10, 15 years ago. And it's really opened up that playbook, really given us a lot more tools to get really super creative on a lot of these ideas.
All right, man, I'm sold on this. I really love the idea and it's something I'm really passionate about. So for the first cocktail, let's start out with something no ABV.
Absolutely. I think that that's a great place to start off with this kind of conversation, especially because it's unambiguous. Non-alcoholic is a very defined category, defined by the U.S. government up to a certain point. Anything 0.5% alcohol or lower is considered non-alcoholic. But I do want to stress that while you can make something in your bar with like a dash of bitters that would be technically non-alcoholic, if you are adding any kind of dash or anything like that, you really have to make sure that's on your menu. You really want to make sure your guests are aware of what they're getting into that goes along with that. But for our first cocktail for this, I want to make for you my non-alcoholic Faluda. This took its inspiration from an Indian dessert that uses rose and holy basil, and we're going to be using the Seedlip spice here to really give it that backbone. So to get started with this, we're going to be using a few scoops of holy basil seeds. So what these are sweet basil seeds that have been rehydrated in water. They end up with this kind of like lovely boba consistency and texture. So as you're drinking, you're getting this sensory and textural textural experience as you're drinking. Because one thing to really keep in mind when you're working on these non-alcoholic cocktails is you have to recreate that mouthfeel and texture.
Body,
yeah, that body. What are you doing for that? So things like effervescence or textural things like this can really go a long way. For this also, for our sweetener, we're using a 1/2 ounce of rose syrup. So essentially what for this is we've taken a 1-to-1 simple syrup and added good high quality rose water to it. It gives this lovely floral flavor to the body of that sweetener as well. So we're not just adding sweet, we're adding another element on top of that. Then we're going to go for 1/2 ounce of fresh lime juice, get that lovely acidity going on. And then we've got a full ounce of fresh watermelon juice. It's going to give it that lovely color, but also give it a little bit of a different fruit flavor. Oh, it's so great. I love watermelon. So refreshing and so bright. And then we're going to go for 2 ounces of the Seedlip spice. So Seedlip is a non-alcoholic spirit. There is a distillation process that goes along with this, and which is really important to note because that distillation process carries different molecules with it. Alcohol and water bond to compounds and flavor profiles differently. So the process that goes along with this, kind of like almost a evaporation distillation on a low ABV distillate, is giving you more flavor compounds than just say a hydrosol or just water infusion would. Going to ice up our glass and then hit it with a little bit of soda water there. I always pour my soda water in first because I'm trying to preserve those bubbles. People like to make fun of me for it sometimes, but I find that the sugar and everything will mix together really well on its own. Whip this up. Now for this, I only whipped this cocktail together instead of full shaking it because it is non-alcoholic. We're not looking for as much of a dilution as we were in terms of the full spirited kind of a cocktail. You want to just get fully incorporated without adding too much extra water.
Incredible. From this far away, I can smell it. Like the aromatics are reaching me over here.
And then because we do,
incredible.
I'm glad you like it. Tastes almost as good as it smells.
Yeah.
And then because we do want to make sure that people are getting a lovely visual as long as they go along with their drink as well. We got a little bit of a mint bouquet there for you. So as you can stick your nose in there, take a sip. You're going to get those florals of the on the palate as well as those aromatics on the nose there.
Oh wow, that's tasty. Yeah. That is delicious.
And it really gives the spice from Seedlip is really meant to be more that aromatic sense for it. The wonderful thing again about Seedlips is that they're not trying to recreate a specific spirit, so you got a different kind of backbone you can build off of. So this is giving you more of that aromatic spice characteristic.
That is lovely, my friend. That is lovely. And again, you know, I talk to friends of mine who are bar managers, bar owners, lead bartenders, what have you. I tell them, like, why sell somebody just a regular like carbonated soft drink that they could buy at your, I don't know, set at your corner store when you could sell them a full price cocktail, right? A non-alcoholic cocktail
Absolutely.
That's delicious and three-dimensional and round, and it hits all points of the palate.
Absolutely. It's one of those opportunities to really give people an excuse to come to your venue and spend time with you. If you're going out, especially these days, you gotta have a reason to go to a place. There's gotta be some sort of mindfulness. There's gotta be something you're not doing for yourself at home. And sometimes that's just the fact that you like talking with a bartender. Sometimes it's you can't stock the spirits that you have. And sometimes it's about going, great, I'm really in the mood for something that's gonna be complex and interesting that is gonna give me a moment, but also I just don't want the alcohol for it today. So.
All right, Adam, that first cocktail you made, that non-alcoholic, absolutely delicious. Now let's go into the lower ABV category.
Absolutely.
Where you're still getting a little bit of alcohol, but not quite as much as in your standard cocktail.
Absolutely. So that's another really interesting outgrowth of this kind of movement here. We're talking about lower ABV cocktails. So while non-alcoholic is something that's defined, lower ABV is something that's a little more nebulous. And for this, it's something that people, again, are being very conscientious of how and what they're imbibing. And for this, there's a tool that I always use on Diageo Bar Academy. It's actually an ABV calculator.
Which is amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. It's I love math, but this is hard math. so if someone's gonna do it for me, that's great. And the reason I love this tool is because for me, at least, lower ABV means I'm looking for something that's gonna be below 10%, but also I'm comparing it to the cocktail that I'm riffing on. So for instance, here we're gonna make a lower ABV Negroni, which is something that I think people are really into. These kinds of bitter cocktails work really well because you're getting that body, you're getting a lot of depth of flavors.
A low grony?
A low grony. I would call it a low
You know,
grony. I like
I
that.
need to trademark that real quick.
Yeah, get that on the market for it. That could be your viral moment, like the Spagliato. Which, speaking of the Spagliato having its viral moment, that it would technically be a lower ABV Negroni.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about something then where maybe you're not controlling your proportions as well because you're topping with Prosecco or something like that. Also, if you're looking to replace that experience of a Negroni, maybe you don't want those bubbles. So for this lower ABV, low Groni, we're gonna start again with our sea lip spice because I really want that aromatic component to go along here.
The botanical flavor.
Exactly, I want that to come through. And because this is a non-alcoholic spirit, I'm gonna go with a full 2 ounces on here, which is gonna be more than what you might normally do for a traditional Negroni. Because again, not worried about that ABV carrying through. We're looking for the flavor components of this non-alcoholic spirit to match up to our sweet vermouth.
I love mixing something like sea lip with ingredients that actually have alcohol in them.
Yeah,
You can come up with some really intensely complex drinks.
absolutely. It's another opportunity to layer flavors on top of each other. And in the way that I see people consuming these kinds of cocktails in venues is they're moving back and forth, like we were talking about. Like they're having a full-spirited cocktail as their entree, like starting with a martini, then moving into a non-alcoholic more for dessert or something like that. Or again, I'm from Los Angeles. People are being very responsible about their imbibing because it might be the designated driver for the evening. So, but they still want to be a part of that experience.
They still want to be part of the communal activities, right?
Absolutely.
And they want to drink, and they deserve a drink that has as much thought and presentation of the cocktail as everyone else's. You know,
Absolutely.
a fun glass, a really cool garnish. You know, they don't want to just be sitting there with a, club soda and lime.
Absolutely, and giving this opportunity to have like a fully stirred cocktail. It's gonna have that weight with 2 ounces of sea lip, 1 ounce of sweet vermouth, and 1 ounce of our Italian bitter here. You're getting those flavors, but you're also getting that color. We're still getting that very traditional color that's going on there, and it gives us an opportunity to give texture and give that wonderful presentation.
Yeah.
Still on a large cube of ice there. Go ahead and stir that up. And again, just like we were talking about with the Fluta earlier, we're just looking more to chill this than we are fully diluting, which is another great thing about trying to do a stirred, lower ABV cocktail is you can get that kind of texture with it without having to worry about full dilution for it. Because again, we're not trying to combat that ABV. And when we're looking and calculating with the ABV calculator on Diageo Bar Academy, they're accounting for that dilution for you as well. And actually, if I'm gonna be completely honest, one of my favorite things, I just got back from a trip to Sydney for the World Class Global Finals. Every single bar in Sydney has a standard drink proportion listed on their menu. So if you're getting a Manhattan or a Negroni, it's telling you this is 1.5 standard drinks for a pour. So you're not doing that math versus like, this might be a lower in ABV to a traditional Negroni, but say this to a full Collins, how much liquid are you doing? You know exactly how much you're going on there. But go ahead and give that low Groni a taste there.
Ooh, my friend, that is delightful.
Right,
You've
got the full presentation. You're getting into that, playing off that area of like a traditional Americano or a Spagliato or a Negroni, but you're adding something different in as well. You've got a different texture, you've got some different spices, different flavors coming from that sea lip. So again, you're getting something that is familiar yet different, making it worthwhile to order this and have that experience.
You're right, it is different because it doesn't feel like a lower quality Negroni. It tastes like a different drink that was inspired by a Negroni, which is what we're aiming for, right?
Exactly.
That's delicious, my friend. Just, I feel like the botanicals from this bottle pair so well with Italian red bitter and vermouth, and the vermouth has body to it, so it kind of it compensates for the increased body.
Yeah, you get that little body for it.
That's delicious, my friend.
That's one of my favorite things is like finding a way to get a really good lower ABV or non-alcoholic stirred cocktail because that texture there is so great. And I'm a stirred cocktail kind of guy, so like having that weight of that glass and that ice cube really makes me feel like part of the journey in a way that I might not otherwise.
I would even go so far as if you didn't tell somebody that was a lower ABV cocktail, they might not even notice.
Right?
They might think that that's gin or some other botanical spirit.
I mean, that's a high compliment, and I love that happens. And ideally, that's what we're all trying to do. We're just trying to make beautifully tasting drinks, regardless of what the starting spirit is. So getting to that point where you're creating something that is delicious to drink is ultimately what we're getting towards.
Well, all right. You made me 2 incredibly delicious cocktails. You know, 1 served tall, 1 served low on the rocks. Now I understand we're gonna have one that's shaken and served up.
Absolutely. So again, going back to this idea of like, what is the experience of these cocktails? What is that taking place for? That's where a lot of my creativity and thought process for trying to come up with non-alcoholic or lower ABV serves is coming from these days. It's not what classic cocktail am I trying to replace, it's what is the experience that we have. So very often I think it's easy to fall into, I don't want to call it a trap, but fall into the habit of replacing that body with carbonation, giving it that length. But with things like C-Lip, we have this opportunity now to create things that would be more like a daiquiri, something that's bright and refreshing like that. And it's also a way to try to tie back into some of the sustainability things you and I have talked about in the past. So this last one I'm gonna make for you here is the Stone Fruit Sour, and it actually uses one of the syrup templates from the So Fresh and So Clean templates that we talked about before, but this one's actually the stone fruit syrup versus the salted citrus cordial we did before. So for this one, we're gonna go ahead and start with just about 1/4 ounce of fresh lemon juice to 1.5 ounces of our stone fruit syrup. So this is a syrup made from leftover plums and other stone fruits that have been steeped with hard baking spices and then fortified with some citric acid and a little bit of xanthan gum to really give that body and that texture, to give a second use from those, but also to give it that big bright characteristic, which is also why we don't need a lot of lemon juice in here, because it's already kind of living inside of that.
Yeah, there's already the acidity in there.
Absolutely. And then for this one, we're actually gonna use a C-Lip Grove, because this flavor profile, we're gonna go for 2 ounces of this as well. The flavor profile of this is more citrus forward. So this one's going more into that kind of like lemon, lime, shaken style anyway. So we're building those flavors on top of each other over and over. And then we're gonna give this a real good old-fashioned hard shake.
Yeah, let's see it, my friend.
Double strain, make sure we get all that lovely ice out of there. And you can see that
And
texture.
that has a gorgeous color and a texture you can already see.
And then we can just kind of garnish that with our lime wheel there. Nice little float on top there. And I tell you what, if that walked across the floor to me, I would not in any way, shape, or form assume that was anything but a delicious cocktail. So go ahead and give that a taste. Tell me what you think.
That is incredible. That is delicious.
Yeah,
Actually, it makes me hungry in some way. I swear it's like the salt and the cordial. It makes you want to eat something.
well, I mean, that's another great thing to think about in terms of these kinds of cocktails and how you're serving them is what is the experience that's going on with them? Are you pairing them with food? Are they complementing other flavors? How does that go along for it? So the So Fresh and So Clean cordials and syrups are really designed to be able to pull leftovers from the kitchen to work with that. So if you have a chef that you're working with in your restaurant who's working with stone fruit at that time or doing a lot of citrus, you're taking elements that are already in that food, pairing them up and helping amplify that all together. Because ultimately at the end of the day, we gotta be honest, we are a business. We are hospitality professionals. We're bringing people in, showing them an experience, but we're also trying to make sure that we can be here in a year by paying all of our bills and stuff like that.
And I really love the idea, and I'm a big proponent of the idea that your bar should be known for great beverages. Flat out. Full stop. Not great cocktails and okay non-alcoholic cocktails and bad coffee. No, I mean, it's like, you should be aiming for incredible beverages across the board, and that's it.
Absolutely. Beverages and how you present them are so important, and that's why I love the fact that, you know, I've talked about this a couple times here today, but like the Diageo Bar Academy resources really combine so much what we're talking about today. Not only does it have all the templates for the So Fresh and So Clean syrups we've been talking about, but they've also got world-class studios about how to design non-alcoholic cocktails and also just about menu design. How do you appropriately list these on your menu so that people understand what they're getting? How do you make sure that they are mindful in a way that they are not being a second-class citizen to the rest of the menu? Then also about calculating that alcohol content, that ABV, using that ABV calculator to be able to say, great, I know this is fully non-alcoholic, I know this one's lower in ABV, and then using that information to inform your guest so they can make the best decision that they can, so they can have the best experience at your bar, bar none.
And I love the versatility that you showed. You know, they're all different formats. even just in regards to just how they look completely different. They taste completely different. So there's a variety there, a diversity in flavor, which I think is key.
Absolutely, because no two guests are the same. These drinks are going to be for different guests at different times of their night and what they're kind of looking for. And being able to have all these in your back pocket to pull out and present to them, I think is really key and really a big part of where beverage design and cocktail makers are going to be going the next couple of years, I think.
Well, my friend, I could not agree more with those sentiments. And I did want to ask, before I let you go, if somebody wanted access to more of these resources, wanted to learn some more information, maybe wanted to get a better grasp and understanding of the lower ABV and no ABV categories, what's the best place for them to go?
Absolutely. The best place to go for a consolidated package of information for all of these things we're talking about is diageobaracademy.com. They have world-class studios. Specifically right now, there's one called Future Proof that is all about lower and no ABV cocktails, as well as the ABV calculator. There's a sustainability with So Fresh and So Clean, as well as an episode that you and I did. Go ahead and check that out for a little more information and demo on that. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Bottled and Bond LA. Share as many tips and tricks as I can, and I'm always open to help out as much as I can. We are an industry that only gets better by mentoring other people, and if I can help anyone figure anything out, I'm here for it.
All right, man. Well, you know what? I love the enthusiasm. I love the idea behind it. I love the idea that it just perpetuates hospitality across the board, regardless of whether you're drinking or drinking even a little bit less. Brother, I want to say thank you one more time for taking the time to hang out with us and lending us your expertise in regards to lower ABV and no ABV categories.
Seriously, anytime. It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for welcoming me behind your bar.
All right, so all of you out there, how do you feel about these categories? Do you think this is something that you would incorporate in your bar? How do you feel about the popularity and the explosion of lower ABV and no ABV cocktails? Let us know in the comments down below, and maybe if there's enough enthusiasm, we'll feature in a future episode. And with that said, don't forget to muddle that like and subscribe button. And if you'd like to dive deeper into the world of craft cocktails with me, be sure to check out the Bartender at Large podcast, which I host on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else where quality podcasts are found. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.